Some NBA players change the score. But a rare few, they change everything. They shift how we play, how we think, and how the world sees the game. These are the pioneers, the culture shapers, the legends whose impact goes far beyond stat sheets or trophies. They didn't just rack up wins, they redefined greatness. Today we're diving into the top 10 most influential players in NBA history. Not the most dominant, not the most decorated, but the ones who changed the sport, the business, the culture, and sometimes the world. From global icons to culture rebels, from game changers to movement starters, these are the players who left fingerprints on history. This isn't just a list, it's a legacy. Let's start at the very edge of a global breakthrough. Yao Ming didn't just step into the NBA, he opened the door for over 1 billion people to follow him. At 7'6" with soft touch, elite footwork, and court vision unheard of for a man his size, Yao wasn't just an anomaly, he was a revolution. Drafted first overall in 2002 by the Houston Rockets, many questioned if a player from China could dominate in the NBA. Yao didn't just prove them wrong, he rewrote the narrative. In his rookie season, over 200 million people in China tuned in to watch his debut. Rockets games suddenly became international events. The NBA's presence in Asia exploded. And the league started scheduling tip-offs to align with Chinese time zones. Let that sink in. Yao was so influential he literally changed when games were played. But his influence wasn't just measured in viewership. Yao was a cultural bridge. He blended humility with humor, elegance with intensity. He stood toe-to-toe with Shaq, outplayed top centers, and earned 8 All-Star selections. Off the court, he shattered stereotypes, conducting interviews in English and Mandarin, representing a new generation of global athletes. Even after injuries cut his career short, Yao's impact didn't fade. He became president of the Chinese Basketball Association, pushing to modernize the sport in China. He launched wildlife protection campaigns. He built youth programs and partnered with the NBA to develop future stars. And through all of it, he remained a respected figure both in China and around the world. Yao Ming didn't just play in the NBA, he transformed it from an American league into a global phenomenon. And if Yao brought the world to the NBA, Allen Iverson brought the streets. The moment he stepped onto the hardwood in 1996, you knew things were going to change. Listed at just 6 feet tall, Iverson played with the attitude of a 7-footer. He didn't care who was in front of him, Jordan, Kobe, Shaq, it didn't matter. He came to compete, and he came to be himself. AI didn't just influence the game, he influenced everything around it. He changed the way players dressed, the way they spoke, the way they carried themselves. Braids, tattoos, oversized jerseys, diamond chains. Before Iverson, this wasn't NBA standard. After Iverson, it became the look of the league. He brought hip-hop swagger straight into NBA arenas, unapologetically, and never looked back. And the league noticed. The infamous dress code the NBA introduced in 2005, that was a direct response to him. But even while the league tried to polish the image, the culture Iverson built only grew stronger. He made millions of fans feel seen. People who didn't connect with the buttoned-up, squeaky-clean image of the league finally had someone real to root for. On the court, Iverson was electric. MVP in 2001, 4-time scoring champ, 11-time All-Star. He was a walking bucket who sacrificed his body every night, diving into the paint among giants, often hitting the floor harder than anyone. He had one of the deadliest crossovers the game has ever seen, and yes, he crossed up Michael Jordan in his rookie year. But it wasn't just about the highlights. Iverson embodied authenticity. He brought raw emotion, heart, and vulnerability to the league. Whether he was winning or losing, he wore everything on his sleeve. He connected with fans not as a superstar, but as a fighter. Players today, from Steph Curry to Ja Morant to Damian Lillard, owe part of their image, confidence, and flair to Iverson's trailblazing. He proved that you didn't have to fit a mold to be a legend. Iverson didn't just break the mold, he became the mold for a new era. And long before Iverson's fire, there was the quiet storm who defined what greatness looked like in its most selfless form, Bill Russell. When we talk about influence, we're not just talking about flash, we're talking about impact. And no one impacted the game and society quite like Russell. Before LeBron, before Jordan, before Magic. There was Russell, towering at 6'10", fierce, relentless, and completely obsessed with one thing: winning. And win he did. 11 NBA titles in 13 seasons, 5 MVPs, 2 NCAA championships, an Olympic gold medal, the first black head coach in North American pro sports. You can't talk about greatness without starting with him. He redefined what defense meant. Before him, blocking shots wasn't tracked, it was just something that happened. Russell turned defense into an art form. He made hustle plays cool. He played mind games with his opponents. He proved you didn't need to score 30 to dominate a game. Yet his influence wasn't limited to basketball strategy, it expanded to civil rights. Playing in Boston during the height of segregation, Russell was harassed, threatened, even had his home vandalized. But he never backed down. He marched with Dr. King. He stood with Muhammad Ali. He boycotted exhibitions when black players were denied service. He used his fame not for endorsements, but for justice. Even in retirement, Russell mentored generations, from Kareem to Kobe to LeBron. He stood as a symbol of strength, dignity, and what it means to lead with purpose. Russell didn't play for applause, he played for principle, and he challenged the soul of a nation while dominating its sport. If Russell laid the foundation of leadership, Magic Johnson brought in the lights, the cameras, and the showtime. He was a 6'9" point guard, which was unheard of. Guards weren't supposed to be that big. Big men weren't supposed to pass like that. Magic didn't care. He played basketball like jazz. Fluid, fast, creative, unpredictable. No-look dimes, full-court bounce passes, baby hooks over centers twice his size. Magic turned the court into a stage. Before Magic, the NBA was struggling. Finals were aired on tape delay. The league was seen as too rough, too niche, and yes, too black for mainstream America. Then Magic came along, all smiles, charisma, and ridiculous skill. And he changed the entire perception of the sport. And he won. 5 NBA titles, 3 MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs. He was a winner in the truest sense, capable of playing all 5 positions. In his rookie year, he filled in at center for an injured Kareem in the finals, and dropped 42 points. When he announced in 1991 that he was HIV positive, he didn't disappear. He educated, he advocated, he shifted how the world viewed the disease. He launched businesses, owned teams, built communities. Magic became the blueprint for athletes building legacies off the court. Where Magic brought the dazzle, Larry Bird brought the dirt under your fingernails greatness. Born in French Lick, Indiana, Bird embodied grit. He wasn't blessed with elite speed or hops. What he had was a basketball IQ so sharp it could cut glass, a work ethic so ruthless it bordered on obsession, and confidence so strong it made trash talk into an art form. He once told a locker room full of all-stars that he was only there to see who'd come in second. And then he won. When he entered the league in 1979 alongside Magic, their rivalry saved the NBA. Celtics versus Lakers, East versus West, black versus white. Bird didn't just play in it, he thrived in it. 3 NBA titles, 3 MVPs, dozens of iconic moments. Bird could pass like a guard, shoot like a sniper, rebound like a big. His game made teams rethink positions. Today's stretch 4s exist because Bird proved it was possible. He never chased the spotlight, but when he stepped on the court, he owned it. After his playing days, he coached, managed, built rosters. MVP, Coach of the Year, Executive of the Year, nobody's done that but him. Bird showed us that greatness didn't need flash, it needed fire. And then came a new kind of fire, one that came from way beyond the arc. Stephen Curry didn't just shoot threes, he freed them. Coming out of Davidson, Curry was too small, too fragile, too outside the box. But when he got hot, he burned the whole league down. He didn't just stretch the floor, he expanded the map. 30-foot bombs, half-court heat checks, pull-ups from places that used to get you benched. Curry made them the new standard. He made skill and IQ the new athleticism. And suddenly, every kid in every gym around the world wasn't trying to dunk like Jordan, they were trying to shoot like Steph. 2 MVPs, the first unanimous one ever. 4 rings, the three-point king. He took the Warriors from bottom feeders to dynastic legends. Every team today, built to stop a shooter like him, and the crazy part, you still can't. Off the court, Curry's just as transformative. Family man, role model, tech investor, academy founder, underdog icon, he proved that heart, brain, and belief could outshoot raw power. Steph didn't just change the game, he made everyone play his game, and that's what influence really is. There are players who change how the game is played, and then there are players who change the entire purpose of the game. LeBron James did both. But before LeBron ever stepped foot in an NBA arena, there was someone who laid the blueprint for that kind of power. Someone who proved that being a great basketball player didn't have to stop at basketball. That someone was Kobe Bryant. Kobe wasn't just an icon, he was a force of nature, a living philosophy, a movement with a jump shot. Drafted in 1996 at just 17 years old, fresh out of high school, Kobe arrived with confidence that bordered on arrogance, but he backed it up with a work ethic so maniacal it became legend. The stories of Kobe practicing at 4 a.m., doing thousands of reps, studying film for hours, weren't just rumors, they were documented. Teammates called it obsession, Kobe called it necessary, and that mindset, the Mamba mentality, didn't just reshape how players trained, it reshaped how players lived. He didn't enter the league to be good, he entered to be the greatest ever, and while that label is forever debated, his influence is not. On the court, he was poetry written in fangs, a 5-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP, League MVP in 2008, 18 All-Star appearances, over 33,000 points, and most of all, a killer instinct that made fans cheer and opponents flinch. But Kobe's influence wasn't just in numbers, it was in moments. That 81-point game against Toronto, second most in NBA history. The free throws on a torn Achilles, grit immortalized. His final game, dropping 60 points at age 37, a farewell fit for a myth. He played like Jordan, but with a next-gen edge. He studied MJ's footwork, mimicked his fadeaway, mirrored his hunger, but then took it even further. Kobe was the bridge between generations, the player who connected the old-school era of elbows and grit with the new-school era of pace, space, and brand building. And he taught every player that followed that legacy isn't given, it's earned through sacrifice. And speaking of legacy, Kobe's most profound influence arguably came after basketball. Where others slowed down post-retirement, Kobe sped up. He won an Academy Award for his animated short, Dear Basketball. He launched a production company. He wrote children's books. He mentored young athletes, not just in hoops, but in mindset. He coached his daughter Gianna's team, became a fierce advocate for women's sports, and helped spark a conversation about how we support girls in athletics. More than that, Kobe became the model for the second act. He showed superstars that your impact doesn't have to shrink when your playing days end, it can expand. He was building empires, telling stories, investing in people. He became an ambassador for a kind of greatness that wasn't defined by endorsements or even championships, but by passion. And then, in January 2020, he was gone, along with his daughter Gigi and 7 others. The world didn't just lose a basketball player, it lost a symbol. And what followed wasn't just mourning, it was mobilization. Tributes poured in from every continent. Players honored him with jersey numbers, fans tattooed his face, his quotes, his mantras. Stadiums went silent, murals went up. His death reminded the world of his influence, but more importantly, it lit a fire in those who wanted to carry it forward. Today, the phrase Mamba mentality lives on, not as a slogan, but as a lifestyle. In gyms, in studios, in classrooms, in boardrooms, Kobe showed us that greatness isn't about being the best, it's about being your best. Every day, without excuse. Kobe Bryant didn't just influence the game, he gave it a soul. Some players break records, some players break ankles, but a select few, they break barriers, they redefine what the game is and more importantly, what it can be. Before there were billion-dollar sneakers, signature logos, 24/7 highlight reels, and global marketing campaigns, there was one man who became the blueprint. The man whose name still echoes louder than almost any other in sports history. Michael Jordan didn't just change basketball, he turned it into a global empire. Let's rewind. When Jordan entered the NBA in 1984, the league was still rebuilding its reputation. Bird and Magic had started the resurgence, but it was still mostly a national phenomenon. Ratings were rising, but they weren't sky high. Players had endorsement deals, but nothing even close to the marketing machine we know today. And then came Mike. From his very first game, it was obvious. Jordan wasn't just a player. He was a spectacle. His hang time defied physics. His footwork belonged in a ballet. His intensity was addictive. And he made everything feel like it mattered. Every dribble, every shot, every stare. But it was more than his game. It was how he carried it. He had an aura. And that aura turned the NBA into a must-watch event across every continent. On the court, a resume that still feels fictional. 6 NBA championships, 6 finals MVPs, 5 league MVPs, 10 scoring titles, a Defensive Player of the Year award, countless game winners, buzzer beaters, and comeback classics. Every time he stepped onto the court, it was appointment television. But off the court, that's where Jordan became a movement. Nike's deal with Jordan wasn't just an endorsement, it was a revolution. Air Jordan wasn't just a shoe, it was a cultural earthquake. It made sneakers fashionable. It made athletes brands. Kids didn't just want to wear Nikes, they wanted to be like Mike. Suddenly your jump shot mattered less than your swagger. And Jordan had both. He wasn't just selling shoes, he was selling aspiration. He was the first athlete to turn his identity into a global commodity. Today's mega brand players like LeBron, Steph, and Giannis, they're all walking through the door that MJ kicked down. Internationally, Jordan did what Yao would later expand. He brought the game to the world. During the 1992 Olympics, as part of the Dream Team, Jordan helped introduce basketball to millions across Europe, Asia, and beyond. That team didn't just win gold, they created disciples. Entire generations of players, Dirk Nowitzki, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and many more, grew up idolizing Jordan. He raised the NBA's value, visibility, and vision. He made it cool. He made it everywhere. But Jordan's influence also came with complications. His relentless competitiveness, while legendary, sometimes made him intimidating, even divisive. He wasn't the most socially vocal star during his playing career. He famously avoided politics, saying, "Republicans buy sneakers too." And yet, his post-career evolution showed growth. He became more outspoken about social justice. He donated millions to causes fighting racial inequality. He owned an NBA franchise, creating executive space for black leadership. He began to reshape his influence not just as a player, but as a businessman and role model. The Jordan brand now transcends basketball. Soccer players, rappers, golfers, skateboarders, everyone wants to be tied to that jump man. And why? Because Jordan made greatness aspirational. He made work ethic sexy, he made winning stylish, and he made the NBA the place to be. His Hall of Fame speech wasn't just a celebration, it was a reminder. Jordan wasn't satisfied, he never was. And that hunger, that drive, it became the DNA of the league itself. Every player who talks about mentality or grind or legacy is in some way channeling MJ. Michael Jordan didn't invent basketball, but he rebranded it. He took an American sport and turned it into global mythology, and more than anything, he made it personal. Because Jordan didn't just make fans love the game, he made them believe they could be the game. Before social media, before live-streamed high school games, before every kid with a crossover could build a brand, there was one teenager from Akron, Ohio, carrying the weight of the future on his back. A kid dubbed the Chosen One before he'd even played a professional minute. The media hype was overwhelming, the expectations were astronomical, the spotlight was suffocating, and somehow, LeBron James exceeded all of it. From the moment he entered the NBA in 2003, LeBron wasn't just a phenom, he was a phenomenon. Standing 6'9", weighing 250 pounds and moving like a guard, he was a prototype we'd never seen before. Magic Johnson's vision and Karl Malone's frame with Jordan's athleticism, it didn't seem real, but LeBron made it look easy. He was a basketball savant. His first career game? 25 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, at 18, in Sacramento, on national TV. It wasn't just impressive, it was a declaration. This was the new face of the league. On the court, LeBron's resume speaks for itself. 4 NBA championships, 4 MVPs, multiple All-NBA and All-Defensive selections, a record 20 All-Star selections. And most recently, he became the NBA's all-time leading scorer, passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a record many thought untouchable. But what makes LeBron so uniquely influential isn't just his stats, it's his longevity. The man has been dominating in 3 different decades, playing at an elite level well into his late 30s and now into his 40s. He changed what it meant to have a prime. He redefined career arcs. He's not just a player, he's a performance science case study, hyperbaric chambers, cryo chambers, nutrition, sleep coaches. LeBron invested over $1 million per year in his body. setting the new standard for athlete self-care. Now everyone in the league follows that model. He turned playing the long game into a literal lifestyle. But LeBron's influence stretches far beyond the hardwood. He's arguably the most empowered athlete of all time. He took control of his narrative, he took control of his contracts, he took control of his power. In 2010, the decision changed everything. While the TV special itself was controversial, the move behind it wasn't just about basketball, it was about agency. LeBron showed athletes they could dictate their own path, form super teams, and move like free agents in control, not just chess pieces for owners. It shifted the balance of power in the NBA forever. Off the court, he became a media mogul. He launched Spring Hill Company, a multimedia empire that produces films, documentaries, and shows centering black voices and athletes. He turned his platform into a megaphone for social change. While many athletes stay quiet, LeBron speaks loudly. He's been a vocal critic of injustice, a supporter of education reform, and an advocate for voting rights. He opened the I Promise School in Akron, a public school for at-risk kids with guaranteed college tuition. That's not branding, that's legacy. That's impact. He's also the first active NBA player to become a billionaire. But unlike some before him, LeBron hasn't waited until retirement to build his empire. He's done it while playing. He's redefined what a career can look like when you control the narrative, the business, and the mission. His more than an athlete mantra isn't just a slogan, it's a movement. He made it normal, expected even, for athletes to speak out, to build, to invest, to own. Look around the league now. You see players launching media companies, investing in startups, advocating for causes. That's LeBron's influence. And it's generational. Even his critics, of which there are many, can't deny the scale of his reach. Whether you love him or love to root against him, you care. And that's the mark of true influence. He's not perfect. He's made mistakes, faced backlash, and shouldered immense pressure. But through it all, he's stayed relevant, stayed dominant, and stayed intentional. That's a rare combination. LeBron James didn't just play the game, he redesigned it, repackaged it, resold it to the world, and the world said yes. Every generation has a giant. But some giants don't just rise above their peers, they lift an entire sport with them. Some players win titles, some players set records, but only one player changed the very foundation of the NBA, and by doing so, changed the course of American sports forever. That player is Bill Russell. To truly understand Bill Russell's influence, you have to understand the time. Russell didn't enter the NBA during the era of highlight reels, sneaker deals, or social media clout. He played in an America divided by segregation, suspicion, and systemic racism. The civil rights movement was just beginning to spark, and for a black athlete to rise, not just in stature but in voice and power, was almost unheard of. But Russell didn't just rise, he stood tall, taller than anyone before him. Let's start with the basketball. When Russell was drafted in 1956 by the Boston Celtics, the NBA was a much different league. It was smaller, less athletic, and less celebrated. There was no three-point line, no high-flying dunks, no national TV deals. But Russell brought something the game had never truly seen before: defensive dominance. He was 6'10", fast, agile, and possessed an almost supernatural sense of timing. Before Russell, defense was reactive. With Russell, defense became destructive. He turned blocked shots into art. He rebounded like it was instinct, not effort. Opponents didn't just miss around him, they doubted themselves. He revolutionized team defense, introducing the idea of help-side protection and positional anticipation that later became the backbone of championship teams and the winning, unmatched. 11 championships in 13 seasons, let that sink in. 11 rings. No one has come close. Jordan had 6, Kobe had 5, LeBron has 4, Russell has nearly double that. And these weren't just participation trophies, Russell led those teams. He was the anchor, the voice, and eventually, the coach. Yes, coach. In 1966 he became the first black head coach in the history of major American sports. He wasn't just playing center, he was making the substitutions, drawing up plays, managing egos, and navigating racial hostility from the bench, while still dropping double-doubles on the court. He didn't just shatter records, he shattered barriers. But where Russell's influence burns brightest is in what he stood for off the court. He played his entire career in Boston, a city that at the time was deeply divided on race. He faced hate mail, vandalism, and verbal abuse, even in his own home, but he never backed down. When Muhammad Ali refused to serve in Vietnam, Russell stood beside him at the Cleveland summit. When young black athletes were told to shut up and dribble, Russell spoke louder. He marched with Dr. King. He challenged ownership. He demanded dignity in a time when even star athletes were expected to be silent. He never chased corporate endorsements. He never softened his message for the sake of popularity. In fact, he often paid the price for his activism. He was booed, criticized, and ignored by many in the media. But that didn't stop him. He knew that leadership wasn't about likability. It was about legacy. And his legacy? It's everywhere. You see it every time a player uses their platform for social change. You see it when the NBA honors Black History Month, or when players wear messages on their jerseys. You see it when LeBron opens a school, or when the league pauses for a protest. That culture of empowerment didn't start in the 2010s. It started with Bill Russell, the very award given to the NBA Finals MVP. It's named after him. Because Russell is the definition of championship DNA, but more importantly, he's the definition of character. Even after his playing days ended, he remained a mentor, a statesman, a conscience for the sport. He sat courtside at finals games, supporting the next generation with a quiet power that said, "I've been where you are, and I fought so you could be here." He hugged players after tough losses. He smiled at rivals with mutual respect. He laughed with former enemies who had come to admire his courage. He showed what grace looked like after a lifetime of fighting for respect. When Bill Russell passed away in 2022, the entire NBA paused, not just out of grief, but out of gratitude. Because without Bill Russell, there is no NBA as we know it. No empowered stars, no social consciousness, no blueprint for how to lead on and off the court. He made defense glamorous. He made leadership unapologetic. And he made being black in America something to never hide, especially when the lights are brightest. Bill Russell didn't just influence the NBA, he gave it a conscience. And he proved, once and for all, that greatness isn't just measured in points, it's measured in principle. When we talk about influence, we're not just talking about points, rebounds, or championships. We're talking about impact, about players who didn't just play the game, they reshaped it, who redefined what it meant to be an athlete, a leader, a symbol. From Bill Russell's courage to LeBron's empowerment, from Jordan's brand to Curry's revolution, these legends didn't just dominate, they elevated. They broke barriers, they built bridges, and they turned a sport into a global language. The NBA isn't just a league, it's a living history of giants who moved culture, shifted narratives, and inspired generations. And this is just the beginning, because somewhere out there, the next influencer is already dribbling, already dreaming, already daring to change everything all over again. And when they do, we'll be watching.